right, and we are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to my channel. This is Sam from Enter the Dungeon, and I am joined by Dylan Shub of Crown Capital, as well as Fat Cats NFT. So, hey, thank you very much, man, for joining me, for jumping on the channel. And we spoke, I guess it's been about a week ago. We had a chance to kind of just, bump heads a little bit, talk through some stuff we were interested in. I got to know your project a little bit, and we both thought, because we had similar interests, our communities have similar interests, we thought it was a good idea to do this this video and this interview. So welcome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I jump in, before I do the introductions here and we kind of start talking about your projects, I just want to make sure everybody out there knows that nothing that we are going to say today is financial advice. Always do your own research if you're looking into any projects. And I want to make sure also that everybody knows this is not a sponsored video, and I don't have any investment stakes in any of the projects or any of Dylan's projects. Right? This is purely sharing of alpha. Two guys who had a meeting of minds and decided to make a video and an interview. So again, man, thank you. I know. So Dylan, you're in Jerusalem.
Right.
Currently, I know it's probably a little late your time. I super appreciate you jumping on with me and sharing your thoughts with my community, with the dungeon. And maybe if you want to just jump right away into, I guess, your background. Let's talk about your background first, where you're coming from, maybe a little bit about your professional background, and then kind of how that got you into crypto originally. Like what was the flashpoint for you getting into crypto, and then just kind of bring us back around to your products, to Crown Capital, to Fat Cats NFT, how it all led you there.
Sure. I turned 36 yesterday, actually, so which is quite young in the professional world, and yet fairly old in the crypto space, isn't it? Isn't that an interesting thing?
Yeah, I'm like a boomer in this world.
Exactly. So I grew up in South Africa. That's where the accent comes from. And we were concerned about crime when I was in my later high school years. Mm-hmm. And so the family moved together to Canada. And after finishing my undergraduate there in law, I took a break here in Israel and kind of never left. And I immediately got involved in private banking and wealth management. In fact, I put together the first wealth management conference in Jerusalem and had the honor of presenting the Prime Minister who opened the conference for us. Wow. And it kind of snowballed from there. I was back and forth for a couple of years to Switzerland and New York all the time, opening accounts for clients. And then the world drastically changed. Offshore became a very dirty word. KYC became the norm. And quite frankly, the shit hit the fan. And I was getting these bankers telling me, like, we love working with you. These hundreds of millions you've got under management are great, but can you stop bringing us Americans? I'm like, well, who do you want me to bring? They're like, well, can you bring us, Russian clients and Middle Eastern clients? And I thought to myself, this is going to be an uncomfortable couple of years. And so I pivoted then to art consulting. And I've been involved since in fine art consulting, fine jewelry, appraisals, which was really fun for me. But I never lost interest in the financial space. And that whole incident with the subprime and the shift in KYC and stuff made me a very early interested in crypto, right? I was joking with my friend recently that, they were buying something from Silk Roads back in the day. And I'm like, those are probably 15,000 a lick. And so, I've really been interested in that space from the start. And then in addition to that, all through my working years, I'm an avid geek. I mean, I played Magic the Gathering when I was like 12. I was the youngest judge in South Africa and never stopped doing those kinds of things. And I actively was involved in Second Life, both as a collector, because there were a lot of alpha artists over there, mm-hmm. Then went to work for Disney and things. And it was a platform which allowed for role play communities and exploring medieval and things like that. So that was really interesting to me. And that made me really comfortable with the space. And so about a year ago, when NFT started to really take off, I mean, I had not arrived during the CryptoKitty run, but once the fine art, the Beeples and stuff started taking off, I thought to myself, wow, I'm in the wrong place. That's where I have got to be, and I took a bit of time getting there because I have to admit I'm a bit of a high fidelity snob, which means I really did think that the coming metaverse and games was going the way of Fortnite, right? That we would get high graphics first and then virtual reality, and then we would tag on, play to earn and ownership and stuff like that. And what I got wrong was it actually happened the other way around. The crypto community was like, well, anything is better than what we had. And so it's been going bottom up, right? You had your crypto kitties, then you had maybe kind of your Wolfgang game kind of small games. Then you start to have Axie Infinity. And so everything is one level up. And once I realized that, then it was like, okay, cool. This space is moving so fast. Even though the games look like, CryptoPunks look like they were made in 2008, that doesn't matter. Right? We went from CryptoPunks to Bored Apes. Now we've got, creeps and different NFTs that have incredible utility. And we've got all these blockbuster games arriving. So yeah, that's how I got here. And now I work full time in this space.
Yeah. And it's really been, I mean, that's been an interesting thing about it is it's like the bleeding edge, the front line has been led by, anonymous avatars on Twitter who are like, no, like give us Web3, give us dApps, give us interoperability. And these things have been coming out of that kind of boiler room, and now it's coming back around and the VCs are coming in and the money is coming in and you're starting to get more cohesion there. So yeah, it's kind of
I think that's absolutely right. I have major respect for the crypto natives.
Right.
These guys who bought a couple of Bitcoin and now are worth a fortune because they believed in it and they continue to believe in it. And to them, it's always been about the long term in a way, right? Because when they started making money, sure, some of them got their Lambo and maybe a house, but so much of the money they made, they automatically looked for crypto-based investments, right? Yeah. The first NFT wave was funded by these guys. And they still enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, even for me, right? And I'm older than most of these guys, so I'm even less of a native in that sense. But like, even I can barely fathom going from investing and working in the crypto space to trying to invest and work in TradFi right now. It's like a mental barrier for me because it's not something I was ever really able to play in. It's a much harder level to get into, but. Yeah. So, awesome stuff. So let's talk a little bit about Crown Capital, a little bit about Fat Cats NFT, and just kind of go over that ecosystem itself. So our viewers have a little bit of background on what you're currently working on, and where you're taking that. So I guess, the main question is, tell us a little bit about Crown Capital and Fat Cats and that ecosystem itself, what you're building there. And where it's going, where you see that going, and how, I mean, ultimately how you see that fitting into your passions here and play to earn and NFT. And
so let's split them into two. Let's do Crown Capital first. Basically, what I have brought with me from my working life is a sense of professionalism and not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. In other words, I truly believe that decentralized finance is the way to go, and that all of these new ways of managing finance, right? Whether it be a MetaMask wallet, a decentralized exchange like SushiSwap, or all of these tools that are now being provided to DAOs, I think that is genuinely the way to go. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't bring professionalism, right? That's why, when I first got into the space, one of the first things I looked for were groups like Certic. Who's doing audits? Who's checking the code? Who's making, because we've got so many zeros now, right? That when you've got that many zeros, you've got to have a certain amount of accountability. Not accountability necessarily to a government. This is not about taxes. But I, as an investor, or if I'm talking to others as an investor, or just with my own money, I want to know that I can do a certain checklist. Who are the founders? What is their track record? Again, I don't care if they've got a college degree. I don't care if they went through the traditional route.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know their track record. Have they been responsible? Have they been consistent, and all of that? And so those were the eyes I was entering the space with.
Right.
And when I started seeing these, moving from indie quality games to blockbuster games, right? We've just started seeing the major studios arriving, right? I would consider Illuvium to be a major player. Gala Games, Guild of Guardians, big time. Once these guys started arriving, I thought, fantastic. Now's an opportunity for me to bring my traditional investment fund mindset of raising funds, managing funds, and the professionalism of governance, and use the structures that DeFi and crypto have created.
Right.
And so that's how Crown Capital was born. Crown Capital, I spoke to 12 friends of mine. We put together 130K, and then we started growing and growing. And the idea was, games until now in the crypto space have been show up, stake something, and we'll pay you for the privilege. Right. That's what crypto is. Or you will breed something, right? You don't have to. You just bring your money and you park it in a way, right? It really wasn't. Or if anything, was a social game.
Gamified products, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as we get to these proper games, or games that we're used to by gamers' standards, you're going to start getting complex guilds, complex management structures. And so it was like, look, if we're going to do this, if I'm going to invest, right, even if I'm putting 200,000 of my own money, it's better to raise 4 million so that we can hire a proper board, a proper management team, and then all the guilds underneath, so that we can benefit from market of scale, professionalism, and so on. And so that's how it was born. And so Crown Capital's mission is really to invest and actually manage gaming assets on behalf of investors and player investors and players in these blockbuster games.
Right. And there's a token being issued, I believe, right? There is an ICO happening, but it's not live yet. So how will that token be used sort of as governance for the assets under your control, essentially, for the investors that are holding on to it?
Exactly. So we're in our pre-seed right now, which will probably end in about 2 weeks. We're just in the CERTIC audit phase right now, and then anyone can go and check. The CERTIC audits are public. Then we've got our deployment. Then we've got our board of governors formal appointment, and then we will schedule our ICO, which will be on Copper. So that's expected to be in about 8 to 9 weeks. And exactly, the Crown coin will both operate as a pro rata share of the DAO and of governance, because that's one of the things that really got me excited was governance. Because, if you look at a traditional Berkshire Hathaway or Coca-Cola or something, right, you have a general annual meeting maybe once a year. You've got this kind of board of governors that really does their own thing in connection with the management, and you don't have much say, okay? Whereas thanks to things like Snapshot and verifiable ownership of coins, we don't have to know who's voting. We just need to know that you're the bearer owner of these coins, and therefore your vote counts. And so we're able to have votes every 48 hours if we wanted to, right? Which means that our board of governors can focus on management and making sure that the DAO members collectively are represented and their things wanted. So yeah, it's for governance and for pro rata ownership. So what that will mean is, when we are starting to earn, we will then have a question: do we distribute a dividend, or do we reinvest that into the next game? Right now, the general feeling, the consensus with the DAO majority members is, we're in year zero, guys. We're literally in year zero. So if you think that these blockbusters are the real blockbusters, just wait until Lucasfilms and Unreal arrive, right? So we want to run these games and then take our profits and vote on, do we reinvest in Miranda's and Gala's ecosystem, or do we also put some into the new games that are arriving?
Gotcha. So CERTIC audit is happening right now, you said, and should be available soonish?
Yes. Yeah. Where the CERTIC audit is really needed, and I find I just did a podcast with them, so I'll post that soon. But where CERTIC audit is really needed is on the staking contracts. In other words, for anyone who's not familiar really with the ins and outs of contracts, the more interaction with the contract, the more things that can go wrong.
The more fail points, right?
Exactly. So the coin contract itself is ready to be deployed and has been ready to be deployed for a month already. But we're just checking out the ins and outs of staking. And of course, staking has other problems involved, right? Do you favor accuracy over gas optimization, or do you favor a low gas fee? Can you compound it? So there's a lot of technical, boring things that have to be ironed out right now, but we really want to get our foundation sorted properly.
Yeah, and I think, I think it's a big lure for a lot of people that you guys are going that route of KYC and audits. I do think that anonymous teams have like a huge place to play in all this and are super valuable. But I think for a lot of people, knowing that you guys are operating with transparency is a big deal. So you're obviously doxed. Are other members of your team doxed too, or is there a mix of anonymous and doxed here? Okay, cool.
No. It's anyone who's running for the board of governors or is officially on the team is doxed.
Cool.
We had an internal debate about it, and the conclusion was, because we've the legal side of what the hell a DAO is very confusing.
Yeah.
And we've got a fantastic team in Belgium who helped us through this process. And basically the conclusion was dox the team because the governors ultimately have the keys to the escrow accounts. So we need to be able to chase them down to the ends of the world if something goes wrong. But make sure to get them directors' insurance so that no angry employee in one of these games comes after them and ruins their life. That's the balance we had to get. So we're trying to stop collusion on a criminal level, right? Because that is, if you speak to anyone, you'll find out in DAOs that the weakest link is no longer a security breach of some hacker. When you've got a multi-sig Gnosis safe, it's almost impossible for them to be hacking all 5 of you in one go. The weakest link is actually collusion of the board.
Right.
And so you've got to make sure that they're doxed enough that if they commit a criminal felony of any magnitude, they can be tried in their respective courts. And we've already got cases of this. America, there were already cases in America where people screwed others just in World of Warcraft over very little money. And there were law cases about it. So we feel confident in that. But on the flip side, we understand that when you get doxed, you're opening yourself up to the 4chan crowds, the trolls, and everything else. And so we just want to give some poison pills where there's proper insurance and legal protection for these people who have put themselves forward to do the hard work.
Right. And the URL to find you guys is crowncapital.games, correct? So anybody who's watching this can go find crowncapital.games. And there's some information on you, your team, the ICO, there's an FAQ.
So right now, the only information from the team point of view is myself and our developer, Sturs Olsen, because the board is not actually elected until the first airdrop.
Yeah.
So once we end the pre-seed, then we've got 12 nominees. I can tell you that one of them is a professional basketball player.
Cool.
Another one is a professional English footballer. We're really pulling in the esports crowd, but they will go through their nomination process. And, anyone who wants in, the pre-seed is only 15 cents. Come and buy one token just if you want to watch the process happen. Because we've got 12 people who have done their KYCs and are nominated.
Gotcha. And
then we will have a ranked choice voting to elect 4 of them.
Okay. Very interesting. Very cool. And I think one of the best ways to kind of get to know your ecosystem is in your Discord, probably. Absolutely. It's a vibrant community. There's you yourself are in there talking to people regularly, answering questions. And like I being older than a lot of the crypto kids out there, it took me a while to come to Discord and to like appreciate it, but it's actually an amazing community building place, and you guys have done a great job there. So anybody watching, I definitely recommend hopping into their Discord. I'm sure you can find the link on their Twitter and on their website too.
Yeah, so we'll include some links afterwards.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, exactly. And I will, of course, add every links below this video, wherever it is, if it's Twitter, YouTube, wherever you find it. So
yeah, and if anyone does find it from this YouTube video, please, when you join, just say where you found it. We'd love to know.
Give a shout out to the dungeon. Say what's up to Dylan.
It's interesting because Crown Capital, from a hype point of view, is like we're really chilled. we're almost, boring, focused on information right now, because we don't want to hype up these games yet until we know the job list.
Sure.
Right? Like, we're building out the teams. We've got a lot of people who are professional guild members in World of Warcraft and RuneScape and stuff like that. But the reality is we're probably 3 or 4 months away from some of these games properly opening, right? I mean, Miranda had an incredible alpha test. I mean, I went in, I was blown away. Their castle is nuts.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. And the AI on the deers that are running away from you, because people don't realize how difficult it is to get, 90 players active all in one, right? Because it's player versus player and player versus environment. So super impressed, but likely a couple of months away. And so we try to not overhype and stick to the information and have serious discussions. And so it's very much an alpha group about play to earn. That's how I would consider Crown Capital right now. And as the games start to open, we will start to organize into the different guilds and businesses and,
So it brings up a good question. What do you think are some of the main challenges that the play to earn, this space is having, like getting to market, whether it's macro, whether it's market related, or whether it's tech related, building these games in the browser for Web3, whatever it is? What are some of the main hurdles that you're finding are getting the tech out there and then getting it to market and getting users?
Sure. I think there's 2 core difficulties. Number one, building a blockbuster game takes a serious amount of time. Yeah. It really does, right? Most of the time when we get new blockbusters in traditional gaming, the team of 200 or 300 people go quiet for 3 years and then boom, it's all ready, right? Yeah. Now, one beautiful thing about the crypto space is we're much more forgiving because, again, everything's been built bottom up. And so we're able to have a modular system, right? Axie Infinity is a perfect example. Axie Infinity opened with its core Pokemon game, and in the background has been hiring and building its full-on LAN game, right? That's accepted in the crypto space. So that means we get to move much faster because we get to build modularly. The second difficulty is, how do you put all of this on the blockchain, right?
Yeah.
There's serious graphic power. And so you start to then get into the question of, okay, do we end it layer at the end of the day? Does that cause slowdown? Does that cause lag? Does that cause difficulty on graphic cards? So there are a lot of technical difficulties. And, there's one guy I saw in Upland, actually, one of the engineers of Upland, which is a kind of metaverse platform, said, there is no roadmap here, right? We're all experimenting on the job.
Right.
And then it breaks. And then, like Axie Infinity scaled up so quickly that at some point when they crossed 2 million, they just broke.
Yeah.
It just all broke, literally, because there was no precedent for this. The top engineers in the space who had been hired had no comparable case study, right? So we have to be quite forgiving on that. But again, the good news is the crypto players are very forgiving of that.
Yeah.
So once those 2 points are covered, then your main hurdle is it better be at least quality enough that when we go to mainstream gamers and we say to them, because this is the main selling point, all being equal, would you rather play a game where you don't own your stuff and you have to spend a $10 monthly subscription, or would you prefer to come into a game where you can play for free and anything you do earn is yours?
Right.
And that's the core selling point. And so, but the game has to be a certain quality to talk to them.
Yeah. And for the most part, I imagine most gamers out there, they just want to play games. They're not yet in that headspace where they're like, this is cool, revolutionary tech. This is going to change everything. We can ditch the corporations and the VCs and all this stuff, like the crypto anarchic kind of philosophy, right? But most of them just want to play games. So it kind of has to get to some sort of tipping point where the tech is good enough that adoption is so frictionless that a lot more people can come in and start playing without having to worry about, I don't know, seed phrases or all these different, all this minutia that is a lot of friction, right? To get involved.
Sure. So there's 2 things I would say on that. Number one, if you look at things like Gala Games and Big Time, they have basically made a normal game interface, right? In other words, you don't actually have to interact with your wallet unless you want to, right? It's like it's a normal login, and it just happens to be, please save the seed phrase something, right? That's all it's asking you. Yeah. It's all, it's like, Coinbase, it's all centralized.
Yeah.
Regarding your other point, I think that actually, if you look at the forums over the years for games like Eve and World of Warcraft and stuff, there are so many upsetting horror stories where people are like, I was playing World of Warcraft for 10 years and I've invested 25,000 and then I broke terms of services and they closed down my guild, they stole all my stuff, or they took away everything. There are so many of those cases that actually, I think there is a serious demand for like, well, you mean I can really own my stuff?
Right. So they've taken enough losses already that there's enough pain being a gamer already that almost anything could come along at this point, fix that a little bit, and that would be a win for that entire community and bring people over. Yeah,
exactly. That's how I feel. And I think it's going to be enough for them to try, because they almost accepted that as abuse that they had to put up with.
Yeah.
And the moment you give them an alternative, it's not like they don't know the problems there. Right? They all, you know, a lot of them are free speech advocates. They may not be big libertarian anarcho-capitalists, but a lot of them have been censored, right? Like, you know, gamers are sometimes pigs, right? I mean, we've all been with guilds and we've been on mic chat with them, and we know that they kind of swear and they burp and they fart and they like to be pigs, and they don't want to be called out for it, right? They don't mean it as a racist slur. They don't mean necessarily to hurt anyone. They are just bantering with the boys. And what has happened in the last couple of years is more and more they are being censored, right? The people are opening reports. And then again, these are 10-year-long players who suddenly have their accounts suspended. So they're furious in that regard.
Yeah, and they're just used to doing the way they've always done it in their chat, in the troll box, whatever. And yeah, and you know, there's a real like it's interesting too, because of course NFT ties into all this, and there's a big backlash, of course, against NFTs, and I think it's mostly you know, it's mostly coming from probably a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding around what the technology actually does, but there's a lot of pushback on that. But I think that once gamers like understand what that actually means, and that owning digital assets that they can bring from place to place, maybe game to game or metaverse to metaverse, once that kind of really sticks, right, there's almost going to be no going back. And that's maybe the Achilles heel for a lot of the traditional gaming industry, because they have,
and you know what, they're happy to come along for the ride. Most of them, the big gaming corporate sides, are not dragging their feet. They've got a lot of legal issues to deal with, and they've got to do this without upsetting their core player base. But they really do get it, because you know what I think the problem with NFTs has been for the wider world. Again, it got linked to investments and lots of zeros, and that pissed people off. But the underlying message, you know, when I've been talking to my mother and people already in their 70s and stuff, the underlying message is something that they're like, oh, wow. And the underlying message is, I don't know if you realize, Mom, but for the last 20 years, you haven't owned anything of your identity online. People basically gave you login abilities to your data and then took that data from you if they wanted to. And so for the first time, we have property rights online.
Yeah.
And if we don't forget that point, forget about the fact that those property rights for early adopters are creating tons and tons of zeros. And that's a great thing too, because again, that brings in the investors and that brings the interest and that brings the hype. But that is, I think, the part, because capitalism is a bit dirty right now in this kind of woke era that we're in, that we're defining ourselves. But the moment these people realize, hey, I can have my property rights, I think that that's going to drastically change.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting too, because NFT itself has been having sort of this renaissance over this last year, where a lot of people who were early to it made a lot of money, and that has brought in a lot of new market participants. But I think once it really reaches the gaming community, which is like what, 3 billion people online or something,
4 billion players.
Once that kind of seeps into that community, right, that market participation is going to flash back to the rest of the NFT space, and it's just going to go even crazier than it has been.
Exactly. I think people don't even realize that, you know, this utility we were waiting for cryptos is literally going to come from South American countries like El Salvador and gamers. I mean, there are so many gamers doing micropayments that if you just got 10%, 5% of those gamers using crypto, I mean, you know, there's Philippines had such an economic shift from just Axie Infinity that they had to open an entire new legal department and tax authority to try and work out what to do with these 800,000 people earning money overnight. And then you started having all these economies where there are restaurants now in Philippines who accept SLP.
Right? Yeah.
So that is going to, if you just start to add a magnitude, that's not even a percentage of the gaming players. That's like a drop in the ocean. Once you start to have 1%, 5% of something, it's going to be all that utility that we always wanted for crypto. And that blew my mind, because that's why I'm so bullish on play to earn games over any other aspect of the crypto ecosystem. Even metaverse platforms like the Sandbox and Decentraland don't excite me as much as play to earn games, because that group already exists and they've always wanted their digital ownership.
Got it. So I'd like to circle back to that in a second, like talk more about play to earn, talk more about Metaverse, Web3. But before we jump over to that, is there anything you can say about Fat Cats DAO, about the Fat Cats NFT? Anything you want to plug there? Or I know that's maybe a little bit early, maybe a little bit alpha, but
yeah, if you're hearing about a year old, I mean, we've just got our 600 people Discord, and we probably won't start marketing for about another 8 days. But basically, it's the same thing. I like the DAO structure.
Yeah,
because to me, it's a crypto version of an investment fund, but where you're communicating so often with your investors. And so what happened was, Crown Capital DAO members, we took a vote. We said, look, we've got $1 million already under management. Should we allocate some of that to long-term blue chip NFT art?
Right.
And the vote was pretty much unanimous, was hell no, this is a play to earn gaming DAO. And also, why not do a blue chip NFT DAO, right? In other words, don't confuse this governance. You need two sets of governance. These are completely, just because they both have the name NFT doesn't mean they have anything to do with each other, you know? Right. And of course, there's some crossover, right? For example, there's Mystic Axies that sell for $1 million, which are both a collectible and a play to earn gaming asset. But the majority is not the case, right? The NFT collectibles are creating brands like Bored Ape Yacht Club. And the play to earn games are saying these NFTs are your in-game assets, your real estate, your avatars that you can use to earn, right? So they're very different, and the criteria is very different. And so basically, Fat Cats is saying, we've got the structure from Crown Capital, we've got the developers, we've got the marketing team, we've got all of this set up already. Why not leverage it and do the same for play to earn games? Blue chip NFT collectibles. And so that's the idea of Fat Cats. 70% of the mint, so about 560 ETH, hopefully, and 75% of ongoing royalties will go towards a community pool to purchase blue chip NFTs.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, let's jump in a little bit more.
And one thing that, I mean, you know, I'm sure people are going to listen and say, but that's been done. It has been done. You've got fractionized NFTs. No one likes them, because it's boring, right? You lose out an opportunity to create a community around something passionate, right? Like, you know, Crown Capital can make a coin, but it would be a really wasted opportunity for Fat Cats to not create a generative NFT project itself and let everyone be ambassadors of what we stand for and create a debate and create the alpha community. A fractionalized NFT is just boring. And, you know, there was a huge thing this week with Ape DAO. Did you see?
I think I saw something come across my Twitter, but I didn't get too much. So I didn't learn about it.
Just to digress a bit, because it was really, really fascinating. Ape DAO was the first to say, let's put a whole bunch of money together and buy.
Oh yes, they own a bunch of bakes, a bunch of Bored Ape Yacht Club, right?
Yeah, so they have about a $35 million holding right now.
Right.
And suddenly the whole Discord blew up. There was a big fight going on. And what was the fight? The underlying Bored Apes themselves were worth about $16 if you translated it into the pro rata ownership of the coins. And yet the coins were sitting at $8. Right. And I'm like, oh man, I've got to watch this. This is going to play out exactly the point. And that was the point. There was no marketing about the coin. There was no branding about the coin. There was no real community talking about the coin, because it's just a coin. And so people are like, screw this, let's liquidate. And so the moment they started voting on liquidation, the coin pumps, suddenly there's a big amount, and it's going to pass. They're going to end up liquidating. And that just really proves my point that if you're going to don't reinvent the wheel, use what is already working. And the communities that get created around NFT collectibles are not just the cream, they are the main part. Those are your investors, your brand ambassadors, your moderators, your community managers. And so that's why we're going this route. And we're trying to cut away all the staking and all those bells and whistles and boiling it down to this is an investment fund. And we will elect our board and we will put forward criteria for purchasing blue chip NFTs. So that's where that's at.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, that's good, Alpha. Thank you for sharing. Is there a website up for that, or is it coming up soon? Or
website and promo video will be in the next week. Okay, but in the meantime, people can join the Alpha Discord if they just want to come and hang with us as well. We'll send them links for that.
Got it. Awesome, man. So let's talk more about play to earn, Metaverse, Web3, and I'd just like to hear sort of your thesis, like maybe where it's all going in the short term, this year versus 5 years from now, because, it's like, it's an interesting paradigm, right? Like if you're on Twitter, depending on whose feed you're reading, you're either in the metaverse right now, or you're not going to be in it for 10 years. You know what I mean? So there's so much conflicting stuff out there of what it's really going to be. So I guess just, your thesis on kind of where that's all going, but most importantly, where play to earn kind of fits in, because I know that's what you're bullish on and that's what you're focused on.
Well, you've raised a couple really good points. So the term the metaverse is a problem term, even though we all use it. But ultimately, what I think people mean when they say the metaverse is Ready Player One. Okay.
Yeah.
And what that will mean is there will come a time, we're just working towards it, where all these pieces come together and we have interconnectivity between different games, different platforms. It's like you are able to do now on Web 2, jump between websites and take your identity with you, right? Like you can sign in with Google Chrome. Yeah. That is what we're moving towards with Web 3. And then when we get to the point where we have augmented reality and virtual reality, it will feel seamless. That's probably 5, 10, 15 years out, depending on mass adoption. Okay.
Yep.
In the meantime, I would say we can break down NFTs into 3 core groups right now. We have NFT collectibles, which are striving to become brands, right? Bored Ape Yacht Club, Hate Beast, Cool Cats, they're striving to become brands. Then you have metaverse platforms, which I consider to be Decentraland, Sandbox, Upland, and there's a few others. And then there are play to earn games. Now, there's going to be a lot of crossover between them, right? You've got things like Wolf Games, which are a mini game. You've got Sandbox, which is going to have mini games as well, so be more like Roblox. And then you have play to earn games, which have a classic gaming structure, like an agenda, a goal, how you earn. Everything's very clear. It's very boxed in. So how I make the distinction is, in a metaverse platform, it's social. Its core is social. You can do whatever you want. And these are the many games available to you. Right? How I consider play to earn games is these are the core gaming mechanics. There's an objective. There's a goal. When someone logs in and says, what do I do? Yeah, you can tell them what to do.
Yeah. Got it.
Right. So I feel that metaverse platforms are still somewhat misunderstood, meaning I came, as I say, from Second Life. And when you have to tell your friends, what are you doing? What do you do in Decentraland? It's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are like, okay, come and meet me in Decentraland. Cool, get an avatar. But why?
Right. Do what?
We can interact there. And they're like, no, I don't understand. Meet me for a coffee. Why? I can't meet for a coffee. Okay, then let's get on a Zoom call or let's get into our Facebook or Instagram group, right? Facebook almost broke the need for a metaverse platform like Second Life. Right? Because people were like, I don't get the need to have an avatar. Once you get to augmented reality, then it's a different story, because then you're going to bring grandma into the Louvre with you and have a family outing.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that we don't yet have. So I'm less bullish on metaverse platforms. I do want to give 2 caveats, though. I think Roblox has proven to us that if it's not purely social, but there are mini games there, it can really work. And I think that the NFT collectibles all needing clubhouses is an amazing use case for things like the Sandbox that Second Life did not have. So I'm interested in them. I'm focusing on them. Fat Cats is going to buy a land to have our estate, a museum, in a clubhouse. But I think that play to earn games is just ready to just take off, It's got everything there except the gamers who are ready to migrate over. It's easy to say, when I say to someone, like I was talking to traditional gamers recently, and I showed them Miranda's. And they're like, wow, this looks so cool. What's the point? I told them the point. They said, wow, that's amazing. Awesome. So what's the crypto part? I said, well, you remember how you could never own your sword in World of Warcraft? Yeah, you can in Miranda. They said, what does that mean? I said, well, if you get tired of playing the game, you can put it for sale. That's so cool. That's amazing. And you mean I can go and kill a monster and get some coins and get rare things? They get it.
Yeah.
It's just a slight shift of, you'll have to learn how to use a wallet. You're going to own your stuff. Amazing. How can I do that? And then I showed them Axie Infinity, like, really, this is happening? Oh my God, that's like Pokemon competitions with prizes.
Yeah. And for any serious gamer, like, even if you can just break even, like if you're investing in all this time that you spend in a game and in the upgrades, the upsells, even if you can walk out of that and just break even by selling off your assets and move on to the next game, I think that alone is like a massive sale to a lot of gamers who invest a lot of time and money constantly.
Yeah, and also, you reward your alpha players. There are so many people in World of Warcraft who have these kind of early things that other people want, right? They were there for 10 years. And it's like, I can't sell it. I'm not allowed to. I'll get banned. And then I, have to tiptoe around that. So I think that it's just ready to take off, right? That's why, as I said, that's why I'm focusing on the play to earn games. The jury is still out for me on the use case for metaverse platforms. Again, I'm following them closely. I'm super bullish overall on stuff like Sandbox. Yeah. But for me, something like Miranda's and Illuvium, it's like, oh man, this is ready right now. Like everyone wants this right now.
Any more projects that you want to, or that you're super excited about that you want to tell anybody who's watching this about? Like anything that you think is, not investment advice, right? But just something that you're excited about.
Games that I'm following. So in Gala Games ecosystem, I would say Miranda's is my number one pick, followed by Echoes of Empire, which is a 4D sci-fi.
Okay.
Another one that they've just got going is the Walking Dead Empire that I'm really bullish on. And then there is something called Fortified, which is like a castle kind of game, protect your castle and all of that. So those are the four that are interesting to us as a DAO because they're multiplayers in a way, right? You can build a community around them. Then they've got some single player games that are really worth looking into, first person shooter and stuff. So that's the Gala ecosystem. Check out Gala. The next big one that I'm super interested in is Illuvium. I think they're just killing it. They're going to have a land game, which is kind of a mining colony. And then they're going to have a Final Fantasy type, go hunt your alluvials and have these battle teams, auto battler teams. The graphics are insane. The team is phenomenal. Nice. Very much worth checking out. The next on the list is Guild of Guardians, classic guild kind of game with goblins and trolls and elves and fantasy. And everything is structured around your guild. You join a guild. Your guild goes out to hunt for recipes, brings those recipes back, makes swords, lists them on the marketplace, and shares the reward, the loot between the players. So that's Guild of Guardians. Big Time is very interesting. The founder is Ari Melech from Decentraland, who again himself has understood that games are more ready there than a pure platform like Decentraland. So Ari Melech himself has pivoted to Big Time. Big Time, you kind of are running around in time trying to stop the destruction of the world. And you take these time pieces and bring items back, these rare NFTs, to extend your time and get rewards and stuff. So that's Big Time. And then I also quite like, I think people should be following Metalcore. It's got Walt Disney and Lucasfilm kind of guys. It's like a Metatron kind of, you've got these big kind of, what was that game? That movie where you've got those big kind of, operated machines, right? You've got like someone inside the operated machine.
Like big mechs or something like that.
Exactly. That's how Metalcore is structured. And Phantom Galaxy is also somewhat structured like that. So those are both worth looking into. And then the other blockbuster that people are really interested in and we're watching closely but don't own it yet is Star Atlas. It's probably the most ambitious of the games. I mean, that's a full-blown, high-fidelity graphics, style game.
And I've done a video on that one. It's back on my channel somewhere. So, that's a pretty cool project for sure.
If they can pull that off, great. But we haven't put money there yet.
So, a lot of this stuff, I mean, a lot of the, I guess what you call Web3 or Metaverse ecosystem is being built on Ethereum, but it's actually pretty restrictive, I think, for newcomers to the space to get involved in. Where do you suggest somebody who's brand new to play to earn cut their teeth? Like where should, I mean, other than jumping in the Crown Capital Discord and getting to know you guys, like where should somebody start this journey of without having to spend, $70 on a gas fee?
Sure. Okay. So, I often say this to people, that the decisions of something like a DAO, which is building a long-term infrastructure where we're holding assets, we have towns that are a single asset is worth 300,000. We can't pivot. So we have to have that security layer. We have to be on Ethereum. We have to hope for layer 2 and ETH 2.0. But if you've got a small amount of money, or you're actively trading and investing and stuff like that, you should be looking at probably at the EOS chain. There are a lot of wax games coming out that are fantastic opportunities. Things like Splinterland as well, which are multi-chain now. There are a lot of what I call indie games where you can get your feet wet and learn a lot of the mechanics.
Cool. Very cool. So we're at right about 45 minutes. I've got just a couple more questions. I don't want to keep you all night. I know it's probably getting late there. How early do you think everybody is? Like, in other words, there's a meme out there, right? Like, you're still early. You're early right now. And it's my thesis that, and we spoke about this on the phone, it's my thesis that in crypto, I don't know about P2E, but if you're here now and you are transacting on MetaMask and you're getting to know the infrastructure, you're early and you're setting yourself up with an advantage for the future. But for gaming, for play to earn, for the metaverse, how early do you think people are right now?
I think people are ridiculously early. I mean, it's estimated that maybe 5% of the world know what an NFT is, let alone have operate. I mean, that number, people talk about this 5% know what an NFT is. That number becomes closer to 1% if they've actually operated or owned an NFT, or done something with an NFT, right? Just, there was a point when people knew about Bitcoin, but how many of your friends actually owned Bitcoin, right, in 2015? And so I think we're ridiculously early. I think on a play-to-earn gaming side, this is, as I said earlier in the podcast, we don't intend to distribute dividends for a while because we think there are going to be so many games coming out of the year. I mean, we already say no to 99.9% of the games, and this is like year 0. Right? And so our criteria of what we invest in is going to get more and more fine-tuned. And I think people are ridiculously early. And I look, we may be in a bear market now. It's possible, but who cares?
But gaming doesn't even care about that.
Exactly. And I always said this to people. I said, look, Axie Infinity's SLP dropped like 90%. Their player base didn't drop.
Yeah. And
people
that's
bitching, but I mean, if you were earning $5 and now you're earning $2, you're still earning $2, guys.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people in crypto are overlooking, because a lot of the crypto natives are, they are used to buying and trading assets and essentially focusing on like the underlying price action of those assets, and there's not really much of a company involved in most of those products. Like, we're trading meme coins, or we're buying rebase tokens or whatever it is. But in gaming, like, gaming companies don't care. Like, their token can go up and down, but their product and their marketing is going up. Their sales and their revenue are going up. And so a lot of these companies, I think, not only is it early, but they also are setting themselves up for whatever the next bull run is, right? So they have
absolutely.
much more legs, I think, there.
Yeah, look, I think you make the main point. I consider myself a value investor through and through. I mean, I've been fascinated by Buffett and his teachers since I was 8.
Yeah.
And this has been until now a purely technical analysis playing field. And again, that doesn't mean, the value investors would buy Bitcoin just to hold for 10 years because they believe in the ecosystem. But for the first time, we can actually use value metrics, right? There are actual underlying assets that will have ROIs and stuff like that. And that is a game changer. And it's taking some of the crypto whales a moment to get their head around that as well.
Yeah.
And so, that's very exciting, I think. Yes, like we could have sold off our assets. We could have traded our Gala assets, our Miranda's assets, but we think they're just so valuable in the long term that we want to use them for gains. And so, yes, I think, again, we're bound to have dips, we're bound to have corrections, but the fundamentals, as you're saying, are so strong that who cares, right?
Yeah.
Who cares, really?
Yeah, play the game, ride out the price action, be there for the next bull run. You're going to make it.
Yeah, and you know what also is interesting to me? You know, we've been, when January happened and everything started collapsing, so the DAO members like, should we be doing our ICO? Is now the time? And so we consulted Copper, who's going to be doing our ICO, and they gave me some amazing data that I was looking through. There's been no major price pumping action going on, right? Like all of these DAOs, like they're, you know, for people who are not familiar, Copper believes in fair launch auctions. So they're all Dutch auctions. And so you'll see the price will start high, it will fall. And then in the past, in 2021, the coins would then pump, right? You're not seeing any of that pump right now because it's a very soft market. And yet when you look at the amount of capital raised, they're not raising any less capital.
Interesting.
And so the smart money, the institutions, the VCs and stuff are all bringing in money now. They're excited to buy at a discount in a way.
Man, and I truly believe that if you can build and ship during a bear market and weather that out, then, you know, and you're not building during a bull market and your company is not solely riding on hype and FOMO and trade action, then I think, you know, a company that can do that, get through the bull market or bear market, and ship all the way through and have a product that's awesome and ready to go by the next bull market, they are going to be in a very good position.
Yeah, and not to do my own. I mean, I made a fortune last year, an absolute fortune. So I can afford to not sell anything.
Right.
That puts me in a very strong position because some people really did need to sell. You know, and I keep saying this to people: not only do your own research, but make sure you're not trading or investing with money that you need to pay your rent with and your electricity bills. Because if you're in that situation, you're going to be the person that has to dump on the market.
Yeah.
So
what I like to tell people is if you would spend that money at a bar on a Friday night, then that's the kind of money you should be using in crypto if you don't have anything else. So.
Yeah, I think we can be a little bit fairer. I mean, I think, you know, I've been talking to a few people who say to me, should I be buying real estate? Because, you know, real estate's very hot right now in a lot of countries. And I'm like, you know what, spread it between real estate and virtual real estate.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think that I feel confident enough to say that to my friends and family. And a lot of them have come along. You know, even with the retraction, we bought in, when we were buying into Miranda's, we were selling the coins to our members at about $1,100. Even with all of the retraction and everything, and Gala's own coin is down like 70%, we've still 2.5x, and nothing's even opened yet. Nothing's even happened. So we're thrilled. I mean, this is great for us.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. So just a couple more questions.
Sure, go for it.
So number one, do you have any alpha to share? And that could be two types of alpha. So do you have any personal alpha, like words to live by, quotes, things that have helped you be successful? And then after that, do you have any alpha to share about your projects or any other thing or anything else you're excited about? And you don't have to, but I like to leave it there.
No, good questions. I would say this. You know, I posted on Twitter yesterday, for a value investor, I end up doing a lot of technical trading, right? I think there's nothing wrong with going in with long-term intentions and taking profits along the way. So I don't think anyone has to be just an orange or a potato and die by that. We're not cultists over here. Right? Yeah. You can have two sets of strategies going on. You can have some of your money in trading and some of your money in the long term. And I think both of those things are true. I think if you follow people like Alex Becker, you're going to make fantastic trading calls, you know, or Tony Spark, you'll make some fantastic trading calls. And at the same time, you can also be dollar cost averaging and buying in long term. I'm an Ethereum maximalist. I can't get enough Ethereum. Every time it dips, I'm thrilled because I'm getting to buy into an ecosystem now, as far as I'm concerned, that everything is being built on top of, right? Yeah. And so my offer to people is put some of your money for trading if you're good at trading. And if you're not good at trading, I'm very bullish on the long term of play to earn games. You just need to pick the right games, do your research. And I'm very bullish on NFT collectibles. But I think the quiet bit out loud that we have to be honest about is 99% of those collectible NFT projects are not going to make it. Right. And so what do I think will make it? I think that any of these projects that are building out serious brands, I think that that's the word we have to start using, brands, right? Bored Ape Yacht Club is a brand. A Bored Ape is now a model. Adidas bought an ape to use as a model for tracksuits. Right? People need to spend some time working that through. Cool Cats is probably going to get an animated series soon, right?
Yeah.
Clone X is represented by Nike. So any of these NFT projects, if you're looking for the long term, you want to be taking some of your profits and parking them into the guys building serious brands.
Yeah.
And as I was saying to my own Alpha Squad, it's much easier to be right on technical analysis, but much more riskier, right? You're doing high volatility, but you don't really need to know the founders. You don't really need to know about the project. You just need to get on Nansen or IC Tools, check the volume, and buy the wave.
Yeah.
Whereas when you buy long term, you don't have to worry about the FUD. You don't have to worry about bear markets. You don't have to worry about the volatility. But you better have been right about your research.
Yeah, right.
And so this is the trade-off. And I'm doing both. I'm doing both.
Awesome.
And nothing wrong.
Yeah, that's more or less my strategy as well. I like to trade. I have some capital on the sideline so I can trade when I see a good entry point. And then for the most part, I like to ride narratives, ride waves, and find cool projects.
Yeah, and you talked about how early we are. I genuinely think we haven't even seen the price action that's going to come for Bored Apes. I think, and I'm going to use that as an example. There are only 10,000 Bored Apes. That may sound like a lot in JPEG world, but 10,000 when every celebrity wants one, and every nouveau rich wants one as a flex to show that they've got class. Because that's what you're doing, by the way, with a Bored Ape. It's the equivalent of a Rolex. If you, Justin Bieber, buy a Bored Ape, you're saying, I know what NFTs are. I've got class. I'm with it. I'm trendy. I'm still going to make it. I'm ahead of my time. There's only 10,000 of those. So if you think that they're valuable now, when we, and with only, as we said, 5% NFT adoption or even 1% adoption, people that, as I said, don't even own one NFT. Once you start to get to 20%, 30% of the population knowing what NFTs are and owning NFTs, then we should really start adding a few more zeros onto the end of those. Incredible.
And I think Justin did just buy one, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. And all of his friends laughed and he laughed with them. And good for him.
Wild times, man. So Dylan, thank you so much for being here with me. So we can find you crowncapital.games. Go from there, go to the Discord, and also it's Dylan _
Discord and Twitters, and people can reach out to me. I still got time. I'm getting to that point where I'm don't have that much time, but I learn the most from conversations. That's why I like these long form kind of podcasts. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It is about the friends we make along the way. And I appreciate you spending the time with me and getting to know your product, your ecosystem, and just learning from you, man. I really appreciate it. So thank you. And we will talk soon, my man.
Thank you.